Archaic Records.
Hey, what's up everybody? It's Archaic Records here with you again. My name is Jamie, coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee, and I am here to wish you a very happy Morrissey Monday. Although, to be honest with you, technically today is Tuesday. I've been out sick for the last couple days and was unable to get this video recorded yesterday. I know, here's the world's smallest violin. But I did miss last week because I was out of town in California and I didn't want to miss 2 weeks in a row. I know, darn. But anyway, in this week's episode, I'm going to try to answer the question that has plagued Morrissey fans for the last almost 2 decades. Well, maybe not. But this is a question that I think is interesting, at least. And that is, which one of these 2 live albums reigns supreme? In this corner, you have the only official live album ever released by the greatest band of all time, 1988's The Rank by the Smiths. And in this corner, you have the 2005 live epic, Live at Earl's Court by the big guy himself, the greatest singer and songwriter in the history of rock and roll, Mr. Stephen Patrick Morrissey. Now, before I try to get to the bottom of which one of these records I like better, just let me start by saying that I absolutely love both of these albums. I still listen to both of these albums in heavy rotation. I would say around my house, these records each get listened to probably at least once or twice a month on average, still to this day. Now, I admit that I am completely and utterly biased, but I would suggest that these are probably my 2 favorite live albums of all time. So really, it's just a question of which one is better. Now, I've been listening to both these records all week. I've been thinking about this all week. And as of right now, I still feel as if I'm undecided. So hopefully by the end of this video, I will have some sort of a decisive idea which way I'm leaning. Anyway, for the sake of this conversation, I will start with the 1988 album Rank by the greatest band of all time, the Smiths. This album was recorded on October 23rd, 1986 at the National Ballroom in Kilburn, London, England. It wasn't released until 2 years later, in September of 1988. This record was produced by Pete Dauncey. This record was originally released as a contractual obligation by the band. There's a lot of debate whether or not the band ever even wanted to have this album released at all. The original working title of this album was going to be called The Smiths in Heat. Of course, the record company vetoed that right away. And it was Morrissey himself who came back with the counteroffer of the title Rank. This album contains 14 songs of the 21 songs the band played at that show, at the show that night in October of 1986. There are 7 songs from the show that did not make the final cut of the album. The omitted songs from that show include I Want the One I Can't Have, There's a Light That Never Goes Out, Frankly Mr. Shankly, Never Had, No One Ever, Neat as Murder, and How Soon Is Now. Now, despite the fact that some of those songs are all those songs are absolute killers, I actually am generally pretty content with the track list on this record. Now, there might be a couple that I would trade out for some of these, depending on what the omitted songs sounded like. But for me, as just personally speaking, I never got a chance to see the Smiths live. Unfortunately at the time, I guess fortunately now, but unfortunately at the time, I was a little bit too young to see the Smiths. I say fortunately now, because I'm already pushing 50, and I've been old enough to see the Smiths back in 1986. I would be already much older than I am now. If I had a Morrissey time machine where I could go back, or a musical time machine, I should say, and I could go back and see maybe 5 moments in the Morrissey and Smiths history that I missed along the way, I think going back and seeing the Queen is Dead tour would probably be right up there, maybe my second choice behind only the 1988 Wolverhampton Morrissey solo show. Going back and seeing this tour, I think is something that would be absolutely incredible. The Queen is Dead is my favorite Smiths record. It's also my second favorite Morrissey record of all time. Only slightly ahead of Strange Ways, just by just a pinch. I think I said in my Morrissey ranking that the one thing that makes The Queen is Dead just slightly higher than Strange Ways is the song Girlfriend in a Coma. Now, again, I don't dislike that song. I don't really hate the song Girlfriend in a Coma, but it's just like way overplayed. And honestly, sometimes when it comes on, I do skip it occasionally. Not that it's a bad song or anything, and just there's really nothing on The Queen is Dead that is skippable ever. I mean, there's not a bad second on that entire album. The personnel on this album, of course, consists of the four members of the Smiths: Morrissey, Johnny Marr, Andy Rourke, and Mike Joyce. And some additional guitar work is done by the unofficial fifth Smith, Craig Gannon. I think I've said this before. I totally do not believe in that. Nothing personal, but I don't agree with the unofficial fifth Smith title. I never have. In fact, every time I say fifth Smith or unofficial fifth Smith, I kind of want to spit up a little bit. And again, that's nothing against Craig Gannon personally. I love Craig Gannon for the most part. I mean, the guy was at Wolverhampton, 88. I mean, he is an important part of the Morrissey Smiths musical universe. But to suggest in any way, shape, or form that he is or ever was a Smith or an unofficial fifth Smith or anything like that, I just completely disagree with. The Smiths were four and only four people. That is an exclusive club. That is a closed table, in my opinion. There are four settings at that table. And sadly, with the passing of Andy Rourke recently, one of those settings is now permanently vacant, which, of course, in anybody's opinion, I think anybody's opinion that really has really thought about it, that killed in any way, shape, or form any chance of a reunion by the Smiths. Now, I've said this before. I've said it to other people. I've said it on these videos. I was never really one of those Smiths fans that sat around and really pined for a reunion. I think if it was ever going to happen, it would have been amazing. But there were certain ways it would have had to have happened. I don't think the band would have ever just done it as a cash grab. For one thing, I think the band just has too much integrity for that. And in my opinion, it wouldn't work unless it was the four guys and only the four guys. And now, of course, that Andy Rourke is gone, that window is closed, sadly. But this album is a great legacy to the band at their height, touring on my favorite record. It was interesting, after Andy Rourke passed away, I saw a thing online. Now, this wasn't by anybody reputable. This wasn't by any sort of music source or anything like that. This was just some dope online. But it was just a day or two after Andy Rourke passed away. They threw out a question saying, if the Smiths ever reformed now, who would be a fitting replacement for Andy Rourke? And again, this wasn't anything reputable. I think this was just some kid trying to think that he was being thought-provoking. For one, nobody could ever replace Andy Rourke. Those days are over. The chance of any sort of Smiths reunion is done. And two, what is it with our obsession as a species just to make ourselves as disposable as possible? I mean, I remember that question came out. Andy Rourke's body wasn't even cold yet, and somebody was already throwing that sort of question around. And again, this wasn't some sort of music website or anything really reputable. It was just some turd online trying to think that he was being thought-provoking. But that was funny because in the little dumb comment section, of course, people were throwing in names. But for me, there's only four members of the Smiths. Only ever was, only ever will be. And again, I don't mean any disrespect to Craig Gannon or any other person that's ever played with the band or Morrissey or anything like that. But really, it just comes down to it. There's just four people at that table. mean, if you want your band to turn into Pantera, which, you know, I'm not a Pantera fan. I don't really care one way or the other. But if you look at what a band like Pantera is doing now, with Phil Anselmo and Rex Brown, I mean, that's just, if you are a Pantera fan, which I'm not, and I really don't care what Pantera do, but if you look at what they're doing now, they have no integrity. I mean, Phil Anselmo is obviously a total slut. This is just all a cash grab. And it's something, if the Smiths ever did that, I think it would be completely heartbreaking. And that's not to say that at some point in time, I wouldn't like to see Morrissey and Johnny Marr bury the hatchet. Maybe even play some shows again together at some point. How amazing would that be? But I just don't think you could go out under the name The Smiths ever again without Andy Rourke. And again, even if you had Joyce, Rourke, and Joyce, Marr, and Morrissey, you still couldn't go under the name The Smiths. You'd have to come up with something else, at least in my opinion. Otherwise, you just become one of these bands that have no integrity. And again, I don't really care one way or the other about Pantera. But if you're a Pantera fan, look what they're doing to that band's legacy. It's just nothing but a gross corporate cash grab. Obviously, Phil Anselmo has no integrity. I don't know that he pretends to, but he obviously has no respect for the fans or the legacy, whatever the legacy of Pantera is. Anyway, let's get into this record. Sorry for the little soapbox. Whenever I hear or I have to say out loud that Craig Gannon is the unofficial fifth member of the Smiths, I get a little bit protective about that. Anyway, this album starts with just a blistering rendition of The Queen is Dead, one of my favorite versions of this song ever. Obviously, it's an amazing song, and this version is just blasted full of energy. Absolutely incredible. Just definitely gets you like fist pumping right away. I love the version of The Queen is Dead off Rank. The next song is Panic. That is a song I absolutely love, the studio version and the version on this record. Again, there's really not much bad on this. I mean, there's nothing bad on this album. Maybe a couple, iffy performances, and maybe a song or two I would trade out, depending on what the omitted songs off the set list sounded like. But I really love Panic. The third song is Vicar in a Tutu. That song is absolutely amazing and a great version on the Rank album also. The fourth song is Ask. At the beginning of the song, Morrissey introduces this as their new single. Again, an awesome version of Ask. Again, to go back and see this tour live is just something that I wish I could do. I sort of have this theory that when you die, there's no such thing as heaven or hell. I kind of like to believe that when we pass away, we have the opportunity to go back into history. We can go explore planets and solar systems. We can pretty much go anywhere we want after we die. We can go back and look at World War II or the Civil War or ancient Egypt, wherever your interests lie. And there's a lot of things that I would like to go back and see in history when my time on this planet is done. And I'm not going to lie, as silly and sort of superficial as it sounds, going back and seeing the Queen is Dead tour is on my list. Just saying. All right, the fifth song on this record is kind of a medley. The band starts off with an Elvis Presley cover, which is Marie's the Name of His Latest Flame. And this record gets an extra bonus point for that. One, because I'm an enormous Elvis Presley fan. And no, I don't say enormous just because I'm morbidly obese. I say enormous Elvis fan because I am a huge Elvis Presley fan. I have a really bad Elvis tattoo, which I won't show you because it's on my big flabby arm. But I've always been a huge Elvis fan, going back as far back really as I can remember. I have a lot of aunts and uncles who were big Elvis fans. My parents weren't really so much Elvis fans. My parents were more hippies. I think Elvis was kind of uncool by the time my parents came around. But I'm a huge Elvis fan. And the fact that they choose the song Marie is the name of his latest flame to cover just gives them another bonus point. because not only, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a deep Elvis cut, but that is one of my top 5 favorite Elvis songs of all time. So they get a bonus point for going a little bit, not obvious in the Elvis catalog. And I'm a huge Elvis fan, have been forever. If you haven't been down here to Tennessee and gone to see Graceland in Memphis or Sun Studios, man, that's a must do. If you're whether you're an Elvis fan or not. I mean, I'm a huge Elvis fan, but and from there they go into the song Rushmore Ruffians. Love it. Again, they get a bonus point for Marie's the Name because I love that song. The next song is Boy with the Thorn in His Side. This is a pretty decent performance of this song. This might be one of the weaker ones on rank, although I would not trade this one out necessarily for one of the 7 omitted songs. Of course, who doesn't love the Boy with the Thorn in His Side? I think that's a really incredible song, and this is a pretty decent performance. Not the highlight of the record. What She Said is next. Now, to me, I absolutely love the song What She Said. I think it is an incredible, dark, awesome Smith song. Now, this performance on this record, to me, gets a little bit muddy. It's a little bit too sped up. To me, this is one that I would consider trading out for I Want the One I Can't Have, There's a Light That Never Goes Out, Frankly, Mr. Shankly. Really, any of those, if they sounded better than What She Said. Now, I love the song What She Said, but to me, this performance of it is just like a little bit muddy. It's not really the best performance I've ever heard of this song. But generally speaking, I really love the song What She Said. The next song, Is It Really So Strange? And the band is back in top form. I really love this version of Is It Really So Strange? I think the band is just like killer on this version. The next song is Cemetery Gates. And oh man, one of my probably top 10 favorite Smith songs of all time. And this is an absolutely incredible version of this song. I mean, who doesn't love the song Cemetery Gates? Man, that song is killer, and this version of it is really good. And again, man, to go back and see this tour, part of me wishes I was just a little bit older than I am now, so I could have seen. I never got to see the Smiths live. The next song is London. This song is great. It's a great song. This is not the greatest version I've ever heard. Again, it gets a little bit muddy. But again, I really love the song London. Again, there's nothing bad on this album. I'm just wondering if some of the stuff that was left off sounds a little bit better. I mean, there's a reason why it was left off, so possibly not. The next song is I Know It's Over. I mean, it's a Smith song. That is the goods right there. That is one of my all-time favorite songs. Hearing it live is just a treat, no matter what. So I'm keeping that record or that track on here. Maybe not the greatest performance of that song I've ever heard, but anytime the song I Know It's Over is played, that's just a tearjerker. I absolutely love that song. The next song is The Dre's Train. That is, of course, the instrumental track on this record. Not saying that I would get rid of it, because anytime you get to hear the band playing, of course, Johnny Marr's guitar playing on this song is absolutely incredible. But only because it's instrumental, if one of the songs that was left off the set list sounded remotely usable, I might trade it out for that. Then the album ends with Still Ill, which I absolutely love this version of this song. That is a great Smith song. And of course the album ends with Big Mouth Strikes Again, and that is one of the highlights of this record. Not sure if it was towards the very end of the show in general, but that is an incredible version of Big Mouth Strikes Again. And of course, who doesn't love Big Mouth Strikes Again? So I would say that this album has made a very strong case for itself in this heavyweight bout to find out which of these two albums is the better of the two. And again, going back and seeing the Smiths on this tour, seeing the Smiths anytime really, It's something that I regret that I missed out on due to my ironically young age at the time. But I do think that this album is a wonderful document. I love this album. It is my favorite album by my favorite band that they were supporting. Again, just the fact that this album exists makes me very happy. I listen to this record at least once or twice a month, start to finish. Always. Never fails. And that brings us to 2005, 2004, really. If you look back, when this album was recorded, this album was recorded according to the liner notes. This album, live at Earl's Court, was recorded on December 18th, 2004, in front of 17,183 very lucky individuals. Of course, with Morrissey, there's always controversy, and there is controversy as to when this album was actually recorded. According to Wikipedia, for whatever that's worth, which says the album was actually recorded between December 13th and December 20th in England, Ireland, and Scotland. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to trust the liner notes. I've always just gone by the liner notes. But I will say, if this record was recorded over the course of a few different shows, the way it's mixed together, they did a very great job. It sounds very cohesive. If this isn't one show, which I like to believe it is because it's on the liner notes, and I'm just going to go with that. If this is a show that they sort of splice together, they did a great job because it does sound very cohesive. This album was released on March 29th, 2005, and it was produced by Peter Asher. And on a personal note for me, this was the greatest tour I ever saw in my entire life. I saw this tour twice, and these are my two favorite shows I've ever been to, ever. Doesn't matter what artist you're talking about. These are the two greatest shows I've ever been to in my entire life. This was my favorite tour. I first saw Morrissey back in 1997. I'd seen him a few times before the You Are the Quarry tour, but this tour absolutely blew me away. I think I've talked about at least on the Morrissey ranking video I made, that when You Are the Quarry came out, it had been 7 years since the last record, Maladjusted, which some Morrissey fans were not huge on. I actually really love Maladjusted. I always have. When I get to a point in these videos when I start really doing a deep dive into each album, I think I will probably gush on Maladjusted a little bit. Now, it's not in my top 10 by any means, but I do think that I hold it in much higher regard than some Morrissey fans. And I'm sentimental also because that was the first tour I ever saw. And again, I saw him in 2000 and 2002, also before the You Are the Quarry tour. But I remember when the record You Are the Quarry came out, like I said, it had been 7 years since Maladjusted. And my expectations were, sort of tempered for that record. I was extremely excited, of course, when I found out it was coming out. And that album just absolutely blew me away. The entire Morrissey catalog, that is still my third favorite album of all time, just behind Bone and Drag and The Queen is Dead. And I remember I felt like that record had re-energized him. It had reinvigorated the fan base. And when I went to go see that tour for the first time, he came out just breathing fire. I had never seen him at that point in time so energized, so excited, so full of life. I think he knew when he made that record that he had created something incredibly special. And I think if you're a Morrissey fan to this day, that still should be, I'm not going to tell you what to think, but for me, that is still a record that I listen to probably once a week, start to finish, not exaggerating. And what really blows me away or trips me out now, just again, getting older and how fast time goes by, is the fact that album is going to be 20 years old next year. That absolutely blows me away. But I did get to see this tour twice, and those are the two greatest shows I've ever been to in my entire life. This was my favorite tour of all time, at least that I got to experience in person. And I've seen him a bunch of times, obviously countless times over the years. I will be seeing him again in October down here in Tennessee, down here in Memphis, in Nashville in October. Can't wait. I don't expect it to be You Are the Quarry tour. I never expect that anymore, although I'm very excited about the 40th anniversary tour. I've been sort of trying to stay off of social media as much as possible as far as set list and seeing too much of what he's doing, because I always like this stuff to be as fresh as possible. Not that I'm expecting the You Are the Quarry tour again, because holy smokes, man. This thing, I left both of these shows with a grin from here to here. But anyway, this album begins with the song How Soon Is Now, arguably the most overplayed Smith song in the entire Morrissey catalog, or maybe the most overplayed Morrissey song in the entire Morrissey catalog. Which is not to say I don't love this song. I do. There are times it gets overplayed. There are times I don't necessarily want to hear it. There are times I'll be driving around in my car and it will come on and I will skip it. But I do love the song How Soon Is Now. That's not an indictment. It's just one of those things. Sometimes you've heard it too much. And this is a great version of this song. I think this was the first tour I saw where he played it live, for me at least. And of course it's very exciting when he does play that song. I do want to go back and say real quick before I go any further that the personnel on this album, of course, is guitars and backing vocals by Boz, of course. Guitars by Jesse Tobias, bass player Gary Day, who we all love. Dino Butterworth on drums, and Mike Farrell on keyboards, percussion, and trumpet. So I do want to mention all that. But How Soon Is Now is a great version of this song. Again, sometimes the song gets overplayed when I'm just driving around or it comes on. But I think this was the first tour I saw it live on. The second song is First of the Gang to Die. Oh my God. Just amazing. Again, I was so, and I still am, for the record, but I was so in love with You Are the Quarry when it first came out and I saw this tour. I remember playing any of the songs he played off the new record were just absolutely mind-blowing. First of the Gang to Die is incredible. Just holy smokes, I love that song. I love that version of the song. The third song is November Spawned a Monster. One of my favorite songs off of my favorite album of all time, Bone and Drag. I think I've mentioned in the past, though, that as far as the Morrissey videos go, November Spawned a Monster is probably my least favorite video. It's a little much, Steve. But it's a great version of the song. Again, there's nothing bad on this album, just like Rank. It's just a matter of which one I like better. The fourth song is Don't Make Fun of Daddy's Voice. I really like that song. I like this version a lot. Again, just killer material. The fifth song is Big Mouth Strikes Again. I think this is the only song, I believe this is the only song that is on both of these albums. I think. Now that I say that, I'm sure I'm wrong, but I think that that's the only song that is actually on both of these albums. Anyway, for now, I'll just say that that's the case. Great. Love it. The next song is I Like You. I like this song. Love it. The song I Like You, I really love a lot. This is a great version of it. The next song, Redondo Beach. This is a song, just in general, I'm kind of like okay with Redondo Beach. It's not my favorite. This version of it is fine. Again, there's nothing bad on this album, but Redondo Beach has always been a song I've been a little bit lukewarm on. It's not that it's bad, it's just something that, there's better tracks out there. The next song, Let Me Kiss You. Oh my God, man. I absolutely love that song. Again, just seeing some of these songs live for the first time was absolutely incredible. The next song is Subway Train, Munich Air Disaster 1958. This is an okay version of this song on the record. I really love the song Munich Air Disaster 1958. This is a good version. It's not a highlight on the record, but it's definitely not something you want to skip necessarily. The next song is There's a Light That Never Goes Out. No, that's not on rank. I was wondering if that was one that crossed over also. This is just an incredible song. Actually, There's a Light That Never Goes Out is one of the songs that was omitted from rank from the 1986 show. Anyway, I digress. Number 11 is The More You Ignore Me, The Closer I Get. Of course, as we all know, this was a huge radio and MTV hit. Don't care. I love it. Always have. Never get tired of this song. It's a great version of this song live. Again, it's one of those ones that even now when he plays it live, when he busts it out live, and sometimes there's songs it's like, I've heard this one too many times. I wish he could have mixed in something different. I always love the song The More You Ignore Me. The next song is Friday Morning, and oh man, this is a song I absolutely love. Now, I will say that this live version of the song, I love maybe like the first half of this version of it. I think it kind of like, the tail of it just gets a little bit too long after a while. But I absolutely love the song Friday Morning. Like I said, you maybe like cut the tail off of this a little bit, this version of it. But apart from that, it's really incredible. The next song is I Have Forgiven Jesus. And of course, I've always loved the intro on the record to the song when he says, I know it isn't mutual, but I have forgiven Jesus. I always love that intro. It always makes me snicker. Great version of that song. The next song is The World is Full of Crashing Bores. Again, all of the material off of this album is great. That's one of the high points for me. Just talking about this album is just like making me transport my mind back to seeing those You Are the Quarry shows where, man, sometimes I wish you could just freeze time and just go back and revisit it, because that was amazing. Not that the shows since haven't been. Of course, they're all amazing. I mean, I'm biased, but this was the goods right here. Oh my God. The next song is Shoplifters of the World Unite. Of course, great song. Great version. I don't think there's really a bad version of a song on this record. Apart from, like I said, Friday Morning gets a little bit long towards the end. Irish Blood, English Heart is next. Oh my God. I absolutely love that song. I mean, again, anything off You Are the Quarry to me is just, I mean, that's an album that doesn't have a bad song. It doesn't have a bad second. And again, seeing these songs live for the first time, I was just so obsessed with this record when it was brand new. Still am, really, but You Know I Couldn't Last is the next song. And of course it ends with the song Last Night I Dreamt That Somebody Loved Me. One of the greatest Smiths songs of all time. Off of Strange Ways. Just an absolute amazing track. So I think, again, this album has just made a very strong case for itself. I guess now it's up to me to decide which one I think is better. If you have a preference, feel free to join the conversation in the comment section. The comment section on this channel doesn't get used very often, which is fine. But if you decide to use it, just know that it is a First Amendment safe space. You can say anything you want. You can't really offend me, because I really don't care what you think. But if you have a preference over one of these, I would like to hear. Mention it. There's no wrong answer, obviously. But for the sake of this, and I still am sort of undecided. I hate these decisions. I know it's just two inanimate objects, and I know that Morrissey himself doesn't give a good goddamn. But still, I hate making these decisions. But I guess I'm just going to say that I would take rank slightly, only because this is an outstanding document of an era of the band I was too young to get to see in person. This is the greatest band of all time. I absolutely love this record. I love both these records. But I did get to experience this one in person. Not I was at this show specifically, but I did get to see this in person twice. So I will choose rank just by just a smidgen, just based on the fact that I wasn't there. I was a little bit too young. And this is the tour of my favorite album by the greatest band of all time. You can see what I'm doing right there. So I'm going to take rank just by a smidgen over You Are the Quarry. One more little piece of news I want to touch on before I get out of here this week. A little bit of news came out of the Morrissey camp yesterday. Well, not really the Morrissey camp so much, but out of the Morrissey sort of musical universe. Former Morrissey guitarist Alan White, and I hate saying former Morrissey guitarist Alan White still to this day. Of course, I don't really know what's going on with that whole situation, but I do hate using the term former Morrissey guitarist Alan White. But over the course of the last month or so, he's been sort of teasing this big news coming out of his social media site, or out of his social media outlets. And yesterday he announced officially something that I know we all saw coming. Probably the most unsurprising announcement, really, of all time. But he announced that he himself, along with Spencer Coburn, Gustav Manzor, Gary Day, and of course Craig Gannon. Of course, Craig Gannon's going to be there. Why wouldn't Craig Gannon be there? He has become sort of the king of the hanger-ons. Sometimes I feel like when Craig Gannon's phone rings, he's just like, Morrissey, is that you? No, I'll do it. Morrissey, I'll be there. I'll do it. No, I'll be there, no matter where. What? Morrissey, what do you want? Oh, hi, Mom. Oh, no, I was just expecting somebody else to call, that's all. No, I am, Mom. I'm looking for work. I am. They're not really hiring right now. I could go to McDonald's. You're right. No, don't put Dad on the line. Don't. Anyway, that's my silly little impression of Craig Gannon. Anyway, it's announced that all these former Morrissey band members will be they're announcing it as a tour. As of right now, they've just announced 3 shows in Ireland. But like I said, Alan White, Spencer Coburn, Craig Gannon, Gustav Manzor, and Gary Day will be doing a string of shows, Morrissey shows without Morrissey. And of course, if you check out the comment section on the announcement made by Alan White, who I love, by the way, I love all these guys. All the fans are just like, ooh, woo, and it just goes to show you the mediocrity that people are willing to accept as being greatness. And again, nothing against any of these guys. I love all these guys. Like I said, I hate even using the phrase former Morrissey guitarist when you talk about Alan White. I mean, who doesn't love Spencer? Who doesn't love Gary? Even Craig Gannon, who I know sometimes I kind of make fun of him. We love all these guys as Morrissey fans. I would love it if all these guys were still playing with Morrissey, which I think will happen again at some point in time. It always comes back around. But the fact that they are doing a series of Morrissey shows without Morrissey, I think proves that, hindsight being 2020, maybe these guys should have saved a little bit of money along the way, because I'm going to be honest with you, and this is just my opinion. But to me, this feels like a little bit of an exploitive cash grab. Now, I'm not telling you shouldn't go. You shouldn't be excited about it. But I don't think you would find me going there. Not that you're really interested in my opinion anyway. And it's funny because on the social media announcement, of course, all these people are whooping and wooing and saying this is the greatest thing ever. But I personally wouldn't go to a Morrissey show without Morrissey. I also wouldn't go to a baseball game without a baseball. Go White Sox, by the way. And also, as excited and everything as you can act, if this band were playing in your town and across town on the same night, Morrissey himself was playing with any backup band, really. I don't care if it's the Wiggles. Who are you going to go see? You're not going to go see this. You're going to go see Morrissey. And if you say that you're not, that's fine. You're lying. I'm not going to hold a gun to your head, but you're not going to go see this compared to going to see Morrissey himself with anybody in his band. I mean, I'm not. But, you know, like I said, you know, if you want to go see a Morrissey show without Morrissey, I'm sure there's plenty of rubes that will go to this. And again, I'm not going to tell you shouldn't go. I'm not going to tell you not to be excited about it. I'm not going to tell you to have fun. I love all these guys. But it's just sad that the state of the music industry right now, you can actually go see a Morrissey show without Morrissey. I never thought I would see the day. I never thought that something like this would ever be supported, or not like tolerated, but I never thought something like this would be supported, or people would be acting as if this was the second coming of the Beatles. But you know, maybe I'm the one that's like out of touch. Maybe I'm the one that doesn't get it. I mean, people still line up to see Marky Ramone and his Ramones cover band. I don't get that either. I mean, why would I want to go see the non-original drummer of the Ramones in a cover band? Oh, here, take my money. Oh, it's going to be amazing. I just don't get it. I never will. I do wish these guys luck if that's what they're going to do. I would assume they need the money. I mean, perhaps Alan White should figure out how to set up a GoFundMe account if he's this sort of desperate. But anyway, go, don't go, I don't really care. I wouldn't do this. I mean, I'm assuming it's not coming to my neck of the woods. I don't know why you'd come to Tennessee. I live here, and I don't want to be in Tennessee half the time. But I thought I'd pass that news along with you, that some of the former Morrissey backing band members are going to be reuniting and doing some shows, at least in Ireland, probably testing the waters, seeing how it goes. And I love all these guys. I'm not hammering these guys. I mean, I wish these guys were in Morrissey's band today. We all do. I mean, Gary Day, Alan White, I mean, Spencer Coburn. I mean, I love these guys. Don't get me wrong. This is not a dig. But to me, it just feels a little exploitive. It feels a little bit sour grapes. It feels a little twist the knife. That's just all I'm saying. And when Alan White mentioned that he had big news coming, I mean, this was the most predictable thing I could ever imagine. Especially Craig Gannon. You know he's going to be there. If Craig Gannon can make a nickel playing these old songs, you know he'll be there. All right, man. Well, anyway, thanks so much for checking out this video. My name is Jamie. This is Archaic Records in Nashville, Tennessee. If you liked this video, be sure to check back every week for Morrissey Monday, my weekly celebration of all things Morrissey and the Smiths. Be sure and go out and support your local record store. That's probably what I'll be doing a little bit later on today. Listen to both Rank and Live at Earl's Court. And if you'd like to leave a comment below about which one you like better, feel free. You also feel free to comment on anything Morrissey related, anything I talk about. Agree with me, disagree with me, I really don't care. Do I look like I care what you think? Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. And I will be back next week with another Morrissey Monday. And until then, stay tuned for more record content. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Talk to you next time.